been talking, it's just what to say. You know, I thought I was not very happy here for a while. It was acultural to me, this school, and slowly I got to like it a lot, and I met a lot of my very best friends here, no longer alive. Gordon Vincent, who was an extraordinary person and a very, very dear friend of mine, and was an icon at Harvard. He had people worshiping him. Took his own life, as did Eve Morgan, as you may know, one of the more extraordinary people whom I've ever known. And I think they were probably unhappy people as well. I've never been very happy with being unhappy, and I think I've been increasingly happy every year of my life, and I'm now so happy that I want to share it. George School's learned a lot since I left. When I came here, there was one African-American student. His father was the baker, as you will recall, and it was because the Philadelphia yearly meeting had a tyrannical guy who wouldn't allow black people to come here. The last time I was here, I think, apart from reunions, I gave a talk on Thurgood Marshall to the assembly, and I did that because when I was here, I was told by people who thought they were advising me well, and they were good people, that going into the law was a bad idea because it was a contentious field. You know, you should get everybody together and they'll agree. That was not my style, and I went to law school, and I've been fighting ever since in the law. But so did Thurgood Marshall. Guess what? And he brought about the desegregation of the schools. He had help, but he was the driving force. And that was the use of our amazing democracy to make things right. And when I gave this talk, and I did it on purpose, sort of with a nasty streak, because I wanted to tell these sententious, self-righteous people that they're wrong, that the important thing to do is to figure out what is right and to fight for it. And that's what he did. But when I looked out into the audience, I saw that there had been an enormous transformation. About 30% of the people in that audience were non-white. They were not just African Americans, they were Asians of all stripes. In fact, when Susan and I came up here and had breakfast, we sat down with a guy who looked kind of sad. Turns out he was from Nepal. I think it was Nepal, it could have been one of those other countries. He was lonely as hell, and we were talking to him. And my wife is Buddhist, by the way. We lived in Japan, and she found that to be very accommodating. She's still an Episcopalian, but she's a Buddhist. And we talked to this kid, and the head of school came over. He'd never met this guy. He came over to see me because he was going to introduce me. I said, "Have you met, what's his name?" And they got along pretty well. I think that this is an amazing place. I learned so much here that I didn't know I was learning when I was here. And a lot of it had to do not with the things I'm now complaining about, but by the underlying humanity of the place and the breadth of understanding that the faculty had, which I really didn't come with. I mean, I came from a pretty nasty, acquisitive background. Well, I'm pretty nasty acquisitive still, but but I don't think that I've been a divisive force. Since I tried cases for 50 years pretty much, tried lawsuits in court, and I quit doing that, really, I think at the top of my game. I hope it was at the top of my game, because I can no longer remember what the direct examination was when I got up to cross. And that was key to me. I love cross-examination. And what happens to your memory is you can remember everything that happened in the past, but you can't remember what the hell happened 5 minutes ago. And that was crucial, so I just got out of it. And I've continued on, and this is what I'm supposed to be talking about, what I've done recently. I am busier. I mean, everybody always says this when you retire, but it really is true. I am busier now than I ever was. And the blessed thing about it is I don't have to keep time. A lawyer has to write down what they've done. If you want to come to Wilmington, come to Winterthur. It's a magnificent place. I'm chairman of the board now. I live and die in that place. We have a beautiful garden. We have the most fantastic collection of furniture. And we have also library like that can't quit. And we have the best program for restoration in the world. We have people in Iraq restoring things, and people it's an amazing place. So come, but before you come, call me, and I will make sure that you have a wonderful time. I also am extremely interested in something called the Garden Conservancy, which we have something like 25 gardens, which were maintained by people who loved gardening, but they got old, and we were afraid that it was founded by a guy named Frank Capra. And he was afraid, and we were afraid that the gardens would go into desuetude. And so what we do is we organize people in the community, and we support it, and we raise the money. And we're doing Alcatraz, incidentally, in the West Coast. Yeah, among other things. Now, I've got a couple of pay-to-rent kinds of directorships. And I travel almost more than I did as a lawyer. And I'm sure that I'm increasingly incompetent, because I think that's what happens when you get older. But at least I'm not standing still. I mean, I hate standing still. I was really amazed to hear Peggy. Peggy meant a lot to me at school. She said one time that I said a lot of things, but among the pearls were few among the gravel. Do you remember saying that?
I told you I was a 15-year-old snitty person.
No, you know what? You were right. So I've been trying to reduce the gravel quotation as time passed. And I do want to add this. And I married the most wonderful woman that ever lived, and we've been married now for 52 years. I met her when I was 6 and she was 4, but she was interested in other people, and then I finally found her back. She went to Wellesley, by the way. Yeah. And she says, well, whenever you meet an intelligent woman and ask her where she went to school, she says, I went to Wellesley. Not been my experience. A lot of bright people go to Wellesley. It's a wonderful place. It really is. And I'm delighted you're doing the gender thing, because the gender thing. And the gender thing is winning. I want to tell you, I have a granddaughter who's originally South African, but she's going to St. Andrews down in Middletown, which sounds exactly like George School when you hear what they talk about these days, or when I was there. But I was going to say about St. Andrews. But anyway, I know there was this fervent feminist on the faculty. She was telling all this was Grandparents' Day, all about that. And I thought about, the CEO of the DuPont company is a woman. And particularly in Delaware, which I know really well because I've never left it. Very difficult not to leave Delaware, but I didn't. And the governor was Delaware. Delaware was a woman. I have 2 partners in my law firm on either side of my office. They're both women. They're both litigators, and they're both terrific. Wonderful. The biggest rainmaker in Skagit, a small firm I belong to, is a woman. She has practice in Supreme Court practice. When I joined the Delaware Bar, there were like 5 women lawyers. There has been an entire and very satisfying revolution. And I raised my hand because she was giving us a hard time about, I think she gives everybody. And I said, I read memoranda. That was my whole job. You edit toward the end of your career as a lawyer. I'll sit down in a second. And I said, I can't tell the difference between a memorandum that comes to me that's written by a woman from one that's written by a man. And I can't, because it's a discipline, and these people are well trained, and they're supposed to go do research and give it to you. And you can't, you couldn't tell. There's no sexual identity to a memorandum, or at least not at our firm. She said, well, the papers I read, you can certainly tell the difference from a man. She was talking about the fact that, and it was like trains passing in the night. What I was saying was, in our culture and in our civilization, and certainly at the top level of it, there is total gender equality. my experience has been. There, of course, statistically, women are not paid as much as men. Not at Skadden Arps. It's not true. We're the best firm in the world, I think. And some people argue that we're maybe the second best or the third best, but nobody argues about the top three. And we have, I mean, we took our women early, and we said, hey, get all the people from the legal departments who are women, and let's have, and we get more practice from them than you can imagine. So the heart of these horrible corporate law firms that everyone despises is economic. And the women are producing every bit as much, if not more, economics than the men are. So there are an awful lot of good things that have happened in society since I have grown up. I have no patience in the gloom and doomers. I really don't. I think this country is as strong and potentially stronger than ever. And this horrible business with the primaries that made everybody sick demonstrates how strong we are. Thank you very much.
Okay.